Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-Rays, and today we're going to be talking about Criterion. Of course, this month is the Barnes & Noble 50% off MSRP price that has been for the month. You can get this online. You can also get this in stores, certain stores, not necessarily the one where I live. But today we're going to be kind of covering that journey where I go to Rogers, Arkansas, which is actually, I think, the closest place to where I can actually pick up physical discs at a Barnes & Noble. But, I could go in any direction of Kansas City or St. Louis or Columbia. That's usually where I go. But actually, I made two trips, and I'll kind of spoil that at the end, kind of the midway through the video, as I go through the footage of Rogers, where I went down there and did a little haul video down there. And in fact, after that, I will discuss some of the titles that I actually had watched since the time I went to Rogers. And also, just a little mini bonus, I actually did a little extra trip to another place, and we'll talk about that here in a second and kind of just showcase those pickups. But before we jump into the footage, let me know what you picked up in the comment section down below. Let me know what you decided to get during the sale, or things that you're going to be planning on getting in November possibly. So anyway, let's jump into the footage, and I will see you in a second. Well, hey everyone, it's Nathan Jones, and I am actually in Rogers, Arkansas. I'm at a little thing called Barnes & Noble. You may have heard of it. This is the time of the month where you get some Criterions on sale, and I actually have heard that this location has some Blu-ray discs, which is something I can't say about where I live. But I'm excited about it, so let's jump in here. I'm not going to do too much filming. I'll probably do something where I'm coming right back and just kind of do a little, haul video of what I picked up. So I hope you enjoy this little adventure as much as I enjoyed this little drive over here. So enjoy. I'll see you soon. And the adventure begins. Well, I actually only plan on getting maybe 5 titles, but I got a little bit more than that. 2 of them are Janus Contemporaries, so to be fair, I feel like that's a little bit, on the cheaper side. I was able to split the payments, and here's the thing is I'm gonna be selling some things, I'm sure, probably some Magic cards. But let's just quickly dive into the films that I picked up. First is a documentary from 2023, a political biography, I should say. It's Orlando. I definitely am very, very curious about this. I remember seeing this trailer when this movie was coming out, so definitely incredibly interested in checking that one out. The other film that I got from Janus Contemporaries is a documentary, and it is a film that came out in 2022, and it is All That Breathes right here. And so this is a film. It looks like it is set in India, and I am not too certain about it, but it is definitely involving a man and his relationship with hawks, I believe, or at least birds of prey. So very interested about that and curious about it, but always been a fan of their stuff. All right, I got a couple of 4Ks here. Well, the first one being the new Wim Wenders film, and that is Perfect Days. I've been wanting to pick this one up ever since I've seen any Wim Wenders film. But yeah, I remember watching the trailer of this at the local independent cinema theater, so I definitely had to pick up Perfect Days. This next one actually is interesting because I actually got this because my friend Davey just talked to the director, and it made me curious about checking it out and more of this filmmaker's filmography. I've only seen Repo Man from the man himself, Alex Cox. I finally got Walker, so I have Walker here. I'm very curious about this one. Definitely going to watch this and definitely watch the interview with Davey and Alex Cox again to kind of see what they're talking about a little bit more in depth, obviously talking about his filmography. All right, so the next one I picked up is one that I didn't know that Criterion put out, and it is actually directed by the Wachowskis. It's a 1996 film called Bound, and it just looks like a very sultry film that I am very, like a femme fatale type of film that I'm just very curious about to see kind of what this looks like. But I'm very much into the 90s aesthetic and very curious about that. Next is a film that I picked up because my friend Chris actually just picked this up. He mentioned it when I was over there in Belfast, and definitely was curious about this double feature of his Girl Fight and Dog Fight. I actually picked up Dog Fight just because it's got River Phoenix in it and Lily Taylor. I'm very, very curious about this one as well. I'm a huge fan of River Phoenix and the films that he's in, so hopefully that's a double feature of Girl Fight, which I did not pick up, and Dog Fight is a good one for you, Chris. Definitely excited about that. All right, so the next one I have is from 1987, my favorite film year. It is one that is, I guess, a satirical take on the 1980s in Hollywood for black actors. It is The Hollywood Shuffle. I've only heard fun things about this film, but also very interested in kind of seeing the type of stuff to come from this side of hustlers, butlers, and slaves, kind of that whole struggling actor mentality, and seeing what this looks like. It looks like kind of a comedy of sorts, but at the same time look very in depth with some political and social implications here. So I'm very curious about that. And speaking of social and political implications, I finally picked this one up. It's been out for a while now, but it's been far too long for me not to pick it up. It is Paris is Burning right here. I am very, very curious about this movie. This is a movie that I'm really, really interested in the 1980s in New York City, talking about drag queens, African American and Latinx Harlem drag ball scene. And yeah, just really curious about this, and this looks like a living, breathing document of the time period. And the last thing I have is the 4K that I had mentioned. I had got a couple of 4Ks. The next is the Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid by Sam Peckinpah. I just got a Sam Peckinpah with Cross of Iron not that long ago, but definitely wanted to pick up a couple of 4Ks, and this one is definitely right up my alley because I am definitely a big fan of the westerns that Sam Peckinpah has made. So this is one I'm curious to check out. So anyway, I don't have much to say in terms of, these aren't films I haven't seen yet, but I'm sure I'm going to be talking about them in a journal of some sort in the near future. So I hope you enjoyed my little trip over to Barnes & Noble in Rogers, Arkansas. Well, as you can see, I may have gotten a few titles. I probably picked up a little too much, but I actually have watched several of the titles here since that footage that I just showed you, and I want to talk about 3 of them right now and kind of cover what I watched and kind of how I interacted with it. All right, so the first film I want to talk about is one that got me really excited because my friend Davey actually talked to Alex Cox, the director of this film, and had a pretty lively discussion with him, and I'm talking about the film Walker. And wow, first of all, thanks Davey and Alex for the recommendation, of course. And I've never seen any film by Alex Cox directed except for Repo Man, which I really enjoy. And it's quite a crazy futuristic Western of sorts with a lot of oddball oddities involved. But this film is also an oddball satirical Western of sorts, but it is also based on historical acuity. It's very accurate for the kind of the poetic lyricism that this film portrays, and it was a commercial failure apparently, but this movie is a crazy story about William Walker, who is this American played by Ed Harris, who's terrific in the film, as a sociopath who goes to Nicaragua during the Contra wars and takes over, and it's a very bloody and very vitriolic time. So this film is just really creative in its messaging, and I don't think when it came out it was super well appreciated because of the fact that it seemed anti-American, but also it just wasn't a successful thing because the audience didn't really get it as much, the general audience, because this is Alex Cox's most I guess mainstream movie in Hollywood. At least it's a failure in Hollywood, but this is just a terrific portrait. I gotta watch this movie again because there's a lot of imagery that stays with me in this movie, and the fact that it's super ultra against patriotism and nationalism and kind of the idea of manifest destiny and kind of that American dream of just pretty much conquering everything and taking over things that aren't ours. there's a lot of things to wake up to, and it's a great film in that and in its own right, and it's got some terrific special features. I was able to watch a little special feature on Alex Cox kind of remaking and revisiting this film as like an extra for this disc. So there's some really cool things here. Davey and Alex, thank you so much for letting me jump into that. Thanks to you guys for having that great conversation. This next film I want to talk about is actually one that is a Janus contemporary. It's one of the lineup there. It's All That Breathes. And this came out in 2022. And this is a documentary of two brothers who are in New Delhi. And New Delhi is constantly has people in and out all the time. It's very industrialized. And there's a big smog above the city, and the natural air quality is constantly going in and out and dipping in and out just depending on weather, and extreme weather is also causing such severe things as in attacking the local ecology, mainly the hawk. This hawk that they're looking specifically at is, why can I not remember what this particular hawk is? I can't remember what it was, but I will be putting it right here. But they are two brothers who really care about the local bird population and want to mend it and take care of it, and honestly just do as much as they can, as humanity just constantly invests more and more in material that just can't be broken down, and it's affecting the environment and the ecology. So I'm getting political probably with this video, but I'm glad that Criterion will push the envelope for things like this, because I think it's really necessary to understand the world we live in and the people that are about. And we're going to kind of get that bleeding into this next movie that I'm going to be talking about. But let's kind of jump into a different film that, like I kind of had mentioned earlier, the empathy machine needs to be churned, because right now I'm starting to see more and more, just in the world in general, a big take on fear. Fear is just taking over as many people as possible, and I think it's very sad, because empathy and understanding and the ability to just explore worlds you don't have an understanding of because you're not in those shoes is incredibly important. And that leads me to Paris is Burning. This is a great documentary from the 1980s. This came out in 1990, but it's kind of showing the African American and Latinx Harlem drag ball scenes. So it's kind of going through the drag shows of the time in Harlem in particular, and going through the different queens that and the different factions that there are, and kind of just documenting this lovely, lively time about people who are kind of dealing with issues that are still contemporarily relevant, and in fact more relevant than ever before in my eyes. And this movie just really woke me up in terms of just seeing these beautiful souls just be themselves, in this, this small little gymnasium on the stage, winning trophies, judging each other, but in their own terms. And I think that's a really special thing. And this movie, I think, should be shown to a lot of people. So if you're curious about just understanding what other people go through in places where like you have literally no idea or concept of how that is, that's what movies do. It's an empathy machine. And honestly, that's something that I'm really in love with right now, is the fact that like I'm able to jump into these worlds and understand just a tad, and be understanding and empathetic about it. That's what it matters in my book. But regardless, if you've seen any of those films, let me know what your thoughts are. I would love to know in the comment section. I was also able to go to Colombia this past weekend, and that was my extra Barnes & Noble trip. I didn't just go to Rogers. I just was in Colombia for my friend Daniel. He was able to, we just got together with the boys, and I decided to stop by Barnes & Noble since it was right there, right? And so I actually picked up 4 titles that I thought were really interesting, but I had to be really quick about it, so I couldn't really get any footage, so I'm just going to show you the titles that I picked up. I haven't seen any of these titles, but I'm very curious about each of them in their own ways. The first one is kind of ironically connected to Paris is Burning in a way. It is Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And this is directed by John Cameron Mitchell, and this came out in 2001. And I guess it's about let's see, a boy in the East Berlin, Hedwig Mitchell, undergoes a traumatic personal transformation in order to immigrate to the U.S., where she reinvents herself as an internationally ignored but divinely talented rock diva. So this is like, it's all about identity and kind of taking yourself and like being the best version of yourself. And I this is a musical, and I've heard this is just terrific. And I guess this is based on like some stage plays. So I'm really curious about this film and just kind of understanding more of that world, because it looks like a blast. All right, so next is a film that I picked up that I've been really curious just based on the cover alone, because it's just a gorgeous cover. It's Rouge right here, directed by Stanley Kwan, came out in 1987, my favorite film year. This is a movie that looks very up my alley. It reminds me, I think, just based on reading about this kind of lost love between different time periods as well, it reminds me of something like Chungking Express or in the Mood for Love, in terms of just looking just blatantly at the the culture of this time period, which I think is the 1930s Hong Kong, to like the present. So this is what's this is going to be a fascinating story, and I can't wait to check it out. I don't really know much about it, but it looks interesting for sure. The next film is one that got a lot of critical acclaim the year it came out. I think it was 2023, so it was just last year, and one that I forgot that Criterion put out. It is Anatomy of a Fall right here by Justine Triet, and it is in French and English. And yeah, this is just going to be like a court drama, but like a little bit more than that. I have not seen anything about this. I've only heard good things about it, but I am definitely interested in that film and cannot wait to jump into it. And the last film I picked up is one that I was interested on the title alone. It just really struck me. It's from 2022, so it's not that long ago. It is All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. This is a documentary by Laura Poitras with Non Golden, and I've been in a documentary mood, so why might as well not, and might as well jump into it even further, right? I'm curious about this movie. It came out not that long ago, and it's definitely looking at a lot of different areas in life, from arts, the AIDS epidemic, and also the pharmaceutical company. So I really don't know much about like how those all intermingle and intertwine with this person, but this is going to be a curious look, and I'm definitely very excited to check that one out. But with that being said, I was able to go to Rogers, Arkansas, and also Columbia, Missouri, to get up some titles for the month of July. I forgot what month it was. And but I would love to know what your pickups for the month are, what you plan on picking up later on in the year. Let me know. Anything I missed that I maybe didn't see, let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a like, comment down below, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.